Hi guys, I think I will go back to English so it will be much easier for me. I live in the US for 17 years and for me it's much easier to converse in English. Movie industry and documentaries. You know, I started my first documentary actually when I was 16, when I was a kid a long time ago. And for me it was a fascinating experience because you're taking the camera and you're just going. That's why for a lot of students it's much easier when they're deciding if they go into the journalism or if they go into the filmmaking. It's the much more easy experience to just take camera and go. Go to film something, go to tackle the subject that around them. And in our days, because of the mix in the media, again, mix in the media, and I'm talking specifically by propaganda stuff, or sometimes because it's missing the information. You know, when I brought Winter on Fire to United States, when it came on the 9th of October, for United States audience, it was a big surprise. You know that technically, before that, they saw a couple of segments on CNN, and not everybody, a couple of segments in CBS, and the rest was like a big hole in a information, in a media information world in United States. So for them, everything what they saw in Winter on Fire was the completely surprise. So the media in our days sometimes tackling subjects either locally or sometimes tackling subjects geographically. So for example, Europe had much more information about Maidan compared to United States and Latin America, North America, South America, that not had much. So for example, when you're going into the documentary world, in our days, we are in a golden age of documentaries because there is so much new outlets these days. I who used Netflix for outlet, and I will tell you something, Netflix became global, 190 countries these days, including Ukraine, and Russia. By the way, Winter on Fire plays in Russia openly on Netflix. So you guys can be proud. So hopefully the revolution will happen very soon. You know what? Winter on Fire is the manual for revolution. So hopefully it will happen soon. In the same time, people need to be educated, and this is what documentary can deliver. Documentary can have a compelling story that can be delivered to the audience that is familiar with the subject a little bit, or some of them not familiar at all. What's happened, for example, with the audience in United States who not was familiar with the Maidan events at all. But the most important, when you're doing a story in documentary, you need to have beginning, middle, and end. And be open to create something beyond your own local territory. During the process, for example, of creating this one or some other movies, I try to be objective, but it's sometimes tough. So I used help of some other friends who can be more objective than myself when they see the subject matter that I'm trying to tell. But I'm familiar with the subject from A to Z, and they're not familiar. So they can tell me what is missing in my story. Because every story, like I said, when I'm doing feature or when I'm doing documentary, it's beginning, middle, and end. Like I said, in our days, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Participant, HBO, Showtime, Magnolia, Oscilloscope, all these companies and even more, they all looking for content. Netflix looking for international content that can be appealing to entire world. Amazon looking for international content appealing to entire world. And most of the companies, they're also looking for the content that can be compelling to the entire world. So everybody looking for the documentaries, because in our days, because of some deficit in international media, and again, international media, I'm not specifically saying that it's a local media, it's international media who creating these holes. We, as documentary filmmakers, can add to all this stuff and fill these gaps, fill the gaps in the social stories, and fill the gaps in different subject matter. Subject matters about particular people, subject matter about particular events or issues. Like for example, Maidan was event, Amy Winehouse was a person. Liz Garbus created a documentary about Miss Simone, a jazz singer. It was about person. Matt Heineman did a movie, I'm talking about like 5 movies that were nominated against us. Matt did a movie about cartels in Mexico. So again, different subject matters that are important for our days, or something historical, kind of describing historical events, like it happened with the Maidan story, or 2 years prior it was the Tahrir, or the Egyptian revolution. So we all, as the filmmakers, have ability to tell this compelling story and educate people. And I think it's important nowadays when a lot of mixed stuff happening and people not able to get a clarity on the events. Like, for example, I'm proud that I can be able to expose this movie in Russia, that Russia can kind of see something that was completely differently depicted in their media. And having said that the movie was up to the Oscars and still going through a lot of other awards, for example, the movie was submitted to the Emmy Awards, it's a TV Oscar. The movie was submitted right now for the IDA, it's International Documentary Association. And the movie submitted to the European Awards. So it still continues the emphasis of the importance of the subject matters. That is helpful for the documentaries to be visible and for the people around the globe to pay attention to that. Simple question, how many of you journalists and how many of you interested in being also transitioning from the journalism into the documentaries? Can you raise the hands? I'm just curious. This is journalists who transition to the documentaries? Okay. Because in our days, a lot of journalists doing documentaries and a lot of big directors, starting from Martin Scorsese or Bill Morris, they are all doing documentaries. And it's important to bring a lot of social issues out, A, to educate people, B, to help to fill the gap that media sometimes created. I was just been in Syria, and I know that, for example, in my media space in the United States, there is a limited stuff that we know about Syria. What I studied, what I learned, what I witnessed is completely different, and I know that the world knows almost zero about exactly what's happening in Syria. Besides that, everybody's seeing a mass migration in Europe, and a lot of people don't understand, for example, what is happening, why people leave in their homes, and do it's really Syrian people? No. And you know what, all these, for example, things I as a filmmaker can tackle, and I not need for this sophisticated crew, and I not need for this sophisticated pre-production, I not need script, I not need casting, I just need to take camera and go, do research on my own, or have my friends who are working with me to do research, and just go and do it. Film it, and then create my story. My story as the filmmaker who wants to tell this story through the world. Now, distribution. There is so much distribution that happening these days. Like I said, all the companies from Netflix that are right now specifically having and stressing the amount of documentaries that they're buying, to Amazon, who is a competitor to the Netflix, and actually in Cannes right now, they showed that they're a very strong studio that are going to be competing to the Netflix big time. Participant, amazing company that just partnered with Steven Spielberg, and in the same time have division for the scripted features and for the documentaries. Now, Participant have amazing thing they do in documentaries that have something important, that delivering important messages to the world, that doing something on the social issues, or working on the social issues, or talking about any social issues and doing some impact on the world. You have Magnolia, another amazing company, Orchard, you have HBO, Showtime. So there is demand for the documentaries. There is demand for the documentaries that you guys can create, and you don't need, again, any specific equipment. You can easily transition from the being student into this process, or from being a journalist into these things. You just need to put the picture in your head, take the camera and go. And the only thing that I, from my experience working here in Ukraine or working right now in Syria, I learned one thing. In order to be objective, you need to be open to either involve people, like we created a co-production between 3 countries, or to be open to involve people from outside who will help you being objective. It's happening sometimes when we lock in our mind and we want to tackle something local, some local story here in Ukraine. Like when we were originally creating Maidan, a lot of things were so obvious for a lot of people around me, and I who was being involved into this, for me it was also so obvious. But what is the problem when somebody who don't know, who knows zero about the subject matter, he watching this, and for him these things are not so obvious, so you need to take in consideration these things. And that's why I recommend, and I will be talking probably tomorrow in my masterclass panel where I will have my team who was working with me on Maidan, I suggest to be open either for the co-productions, and I suggest to be able to discuss it with the friends who are not familiar with the subject, just to be open for all these events. And then you can easily succeed in creating something that compelling and global, because all of you probably wants to be more global than the local journalist, and all of you wants to be a global storytellers. And I think it's a dream of everybody, like it was a dream of myself, to bring Winter on Fire on a level that entire world can know this story. It was my promise to the old filmmakers who were surrounding me, and this is what I'm trying to achieve in my each and every project. I guess it's much easy to allow you guys to ask me questions, because I know that there is a lot of subject matters that I can jump and I can talk and elaborate, because I'm working also on scripted features, also on documentaries, and I'm working on the projects right now, like scripted documentaries, and I'm working with distributors in the United States and in the world. I'm working with
у нас на це є ще майже півгодини. No, I'm just telling that we have at least half an hour to
Yeah. I just think that it will be much more productive if I will be able to tell you exactly what you're interested to know in this process of creating documentaries or creating movies and working with the world in order to bring your stories to the world, to the Hollywood, to the industry, and then they will take it further.
Actually, I have a question. I was stunned a couple of days ago when I talked to a documentary film director when he said, well, we shall write a script of the movie. As a reporter by my profession, I was really surprised. How do you write a script for a documentary movie, which has to be documentary? Go ahead.
You know what? There is a couple of things that we need to remember. There is documentaries that are created on events or people who are in a history, like story of Amy Winehouse. Here you need a script. Here you need to kind of, or you know what, Liz Garbus, what's happened with Simone, where Liz was working either with the archives or with the certain people who were prepared to give a speech, and she needed to tackle specific subjects that she wanted to disclose in a movie. So you do need to write a script. It's not traditional script where you have the full dialogue and it's based on 120 pages or 95 pages, where each page is like 1 minute on a screen and explanations of the set and everything and the circumstances. It's a different type of the script where you can literally explain to yourself whom you're going to interview, what is his background, and what he wants to ask him, because you eventually need to bring this character or somebody whom you're interviewing to the certain answers that will be helping to connect bits and pieces or cover the B-roll or archives together. So basically you, for yourself, creating from A to Z, A beginning, then middle, and then end, putting some bits and pieces of the archives that you already have, and then you're writing for yourself demand to the interview that you want to kind of create with this person.
So this is more like a storyboard than a script.
But you're not drawing this, you're writing for yourself.
Okay.
Something like this never happened, for example, for us, for the Winter on Fire, because Winter on Fire was done on the fly, or something like this that was done for Cartelland, because Matt was shooting everything on the fly as it was happening. So there is a movies that you can create for yourself something simple like idea, and then follow this idea. On Maidan, you know what, the story of Maidan was written by the history. So you're basically documenting the history, and as you go, you're interviewing people, and you're creating this. My Syrian story, I don't have a script, but I do have the history of 5 years what's happened. So I, for example, for myself, I do have some kind of a storyline, storyboard, we can say, main points of what happened. I know exactly the B-roll on our archives that I wrote for myself that I want to find. And I wrote also what types of the interviews I want to find, because I'm going backwards into 5 years history. Same time, I do know that I can't do dialogues for them, like in traditional script. So it's not a script like we used to have, 100-something pages, but it's some kind of a guideline that you're creating for yourself on creating this. And then this guideline helps to your editor to put the same things in a way how you envisioning this.
There are several questions addressed to Євгеній on our slide, and the first one is, we are doing documentaries in our regions, but there is no demand for them, and this is the work of enthusiasts. How do you popularize it?
Social media. You know that YouTube in our days, but again, I'm talking probably about United States. YouTube in our days giving to the people ability even to use the stages that they right now have in the United States, in like LA, New York, they put in this in Tokyo, they put in this in more cities around the globe. Now, YouTube is the great ability to put your documentary, Vimeo also, but YouTube is kind of becoming one of these prominent channels in the United States where they even doing their own content from TV series and the movies. So YouTube, it can be a start. Then you can easily submit it to the festivals. Guys, I not mentioned this, but festivals is the most helpful thing to be discovered. You know, when I started my stuff, I was sending my stuff, my first movies, to the festivals that helped me to be discovered and be further. A lot of times, and I'm talking to you, that you easily can submit from Ukraine stuff to the international film festivals. And a lot of times, studio or mini distribution companies, they picking things from short movies and then creating a feature stories. So there is a lot of opportunities to be discovered in the festivals. About this, how I can popularize this? Social media, Twitter, Facebook, create a fan base, but again, try to be more objective if you want to do something global. You know why at the beginning, I will tell you an interesting thing. When we created first draft, it was first draft cut of Winter on Fire, it was called Pray for Ukraine. Some of you guys know that. You know why was the change of the name? When we showed it to Netflix, Netflix said, you need to globalize, to make it more global in terms of the name. It's not a marketing right to use it as Pray for Ukraine. You're making it local because you have the name of the country inside and you want to be telling this story to the entire world. So Pray, it's kind of limits you because it's becoming religious, and Ukraine, it's making you local. You need to have a stronger universal name, and then you can add whatever you want. And then they came Winter on Fire, Ukrainian Fight for Freedom. That was much more global. Same thing happened with the movie 2 years prior to Winter on Fire, Square, about Egyptian revolution. They took the movie that called Tahrir. Tahrir was the square in Egypt where everything happened. And they changed this to the square. Why? Square is almost in every city, in every place in the world. So the same revolution can happen literally in every place in the world. The most important, when you're able to tell your story and make it universal, you will have ability to tell it in universal themes, because you want people kind of being able to rely to the stories of your characters, to the stories that you're telling, to the people that you're telling, to the subject matter that you're telling. And it starts from the title, it starts from the name. Again, you can easily popularize yourself through the social networks. We were starting working with the movie on the social networks, and it's how it was growing.
Another question is, what would you recommend? To ask questions when you already know your interlocutor well, or on the contrary, when you still don't know each other and the answers are not as prepared?
Kind of lost again.
Whether you should approach people for interview and ask the questions and film them when you already know them quite well, or when you still don't know them and the answers are not as prepared before.
You know what? Try to interview people that you, first of all, you don't know. I'm doing right now with the Syrian people. I'm not trying to pre-interview them. I have some other people that pre-interviewing them. I don't want to know their answers because I don't want them to repeat the answers. Pre-interviews can be done by somebody else and they need to be very brief and short. You never want people to repeat their answers because it's becoming a script. It's like to do a feature movie with the take 2, take 3, take 4. You want to have your story emotional, real, authentic. And for that, I not recommend to kind of do the full interview and then record it again on a camera. Sometimes I do suggest to get to know the character but not to discuss the subject matter, like I do in this with the Syrian kids, because you need to find the connection to, when director working with the actor, the most important element is the connection between two. Same thing sometimes here. For example, with the kids, and I'm talking about, for example, I'm doing something with the Syrian kids right now. I do trying to establish connection, but I'm not gonna tackle the subject that I want them to be interviewed, because otherwise I will make them either to forget later something or to repeat something that will be already sounds different. So I suggest in different situations, different scenarios. Again, ask somebody to pre-interview. I suggest you to have a tea or something and get to know your character, but not to try to make him to tell you exactly the story and then make him to repeat its story again.
How do you fight sensationalism, Yuri asks. As he says, some of the stories are told about people, some great people who are not interesting to anyone, and these projects are not in the limelight of media. So how do you fight sensationalism?
You know what, sometimes we're thinking that there is no sensations, but we can find sensation in a lot of things. You know what, I think a lot of stories can be told in different ways, and you, as the artist, can find the sensation. It's your perspective view. It's how you will execute your job, because you can find in some simple matter sensation. You know, again, back to Syria right now, for example. I found for me so much sensations that I discovered that nobody tackled, and there is so many movies that come into the United States right now about Syria. Maidan, Lasnitsa came first with Maidan, and it was in Cannes, then it was some other movies, but somehow we found a sensation in what was Winter on Fire. So it's your execution, your vision, how you will execute this. And just personal suggestion to everybody who is in this place. You know what? Don't afraid to break the rules. I was taught that I supposed to have specific rules when I'm creating the documentary. No, I was doing Winter on Fire, breaking the rules. And you know what? It's working. So don't afraid to experiment and break the rules. It's always working. Be something different than everybody else. So then you will find sensation.
How have you solved the conflict with the team of Winter on Fire? It is about some rights to video that was borrowed or used or whatever.
You know, today, first of all, it's not a subject of this one, but I will tell you. Today in the morning, I met Christina Berdinsky. And we had a conversation about that. And Christina, the first thing she said, you know what, when I heard about that, it was strange, because first thing, when I gave you interview, I signed a piece of paper. You know what, it's, I will tell you something, I'm living in the United States, where the law is in priority, and you can't buy the law in the United States. It's a law. It's a copyright law. It's the strongest thing in the world. It's the United States. And sometimes studios losing cases because of these situations. So if I was wrong, and it's passed already a lot of months, movie was already not playing. So if it was, I'm saying if it was. So there is documents that were signed. There is some issue that happens on a personal level, and I don't want to go into that, because you know what, guys who created this stuff, they went to ATO, and I can take, and I'm taking in consideration that, you know what, everybody who went to ATO, there is a post-traumatic syndrome, and there is a lot of things that can happen, and you know what, there is a personal things. There is no legalities there. The movie playing, the movie continues, so there is no legal issues whatsoever. Because all team who gave the rights, they gave it rights to the production company that produced this, so there is no legal rights, and it's 110%. But there is a personal issue between a couple of people and producers. And you know what? Personal things happening in every business. So I'm taking, again, in account the situation that they've been in ATO, and it was a personal thing. Unfortunately, guys not went to Oscar, and then it happened. But remember the thing, all these people been with me every time, on every stage here, on every press conference, and it's never happened before. So it's all started from Oscar. So
Dario Kudimov is interested to know what is the role of emotion in documentary film, and whether the degree of emotion depends on the topic of the film.
You know what, I believe that emotion, for me, I think in every movie I'm trying to bring emotion. Emotion is something that brings people and brings them to the simple human beings. You know, I just been in Brussels 2 days ago, and it was a screening for European Parliament. And we had a conversation with the ambassadors who wanted to have a speech before the movie. And I said, you know what, why to do a political speech before the movie when the movie talks on its own? The movie brings every human being who watching it back to Maidan with all emotions, because it was created this way. It was like a time machine to bring the people back and to bring the emotions out. Because at the end of the day, every politician is the human being. Some of them mothers, some of them fathers. So they all have kids. And to bring them back to the normal life, to the normal human beings, is the best way to do it. And for me, I always trying to keep things emotional in my movies, because I want to open doors. I want to change the lives. And I think it's, for me as a filmmaker, it's one of the important things. It's in Winter on Fire, it's in Divorce Journey Through the Kids' Eyes, it's in all my previous movies that I was creating. It's always emotion. There is emotional context. There is emotional elements that I always trying to have in all of my movies. So yes, documentary definitely need to have emotional. You know, I was watching Amy Winehouse movie that won the Oscar in an airplane. And you know what? I had tears. It's moved me. And you know what? For me, it was a very emotional element of the movie about Amy. So I think emotions, it's a very important thing. And try to keep it.
Okay, any questions from the audience? Live. Yes, there is one question. Please, whoever is with the mic, Danilo. Yes, please deliver the mic, and then we'll take a question from there. Та запитання візьмемо ще від вас, і будемо на цьому закінчувати. Прошу.
Є багато ідей про те, що фільм потрібно розпочинати із так званого вбивчого кадру, з особливою деталлю, щоб людина побачила і просто не могла далі відвести від нього очей. Як ви до цього ставитеся, і чи є якесь правило, яке ви радили би все-таки порушити у цьому сенсі, для того, щоб ваша робота вийшла сенсаційною?
a killer shot which would grab the viewer's attention and not let them go away. So what is your attitude towards this?
I will tell you, I love it. Because you have it on a Winter on Fire, and I'm doing the same in my Syrian story right now. I'm starting my Syrian story exactly in a killer shot that kind of takes us backwards in the history, and then after this killer shot, I'm bringing everything again chronologically. But I do like capture the attention of the audience from the beginning. A long time ago, the Cannes director Jill Jacob wrote a book emphasizing how important in every movie to have its first 10 minutes that are capturing the audience. So for me, I always trying to make something important from the beginning of the movie that will captivate the audience and keep it busy in a subject matter, in my characters. So yes, I absolutely agree, and it's one of the elements that I'm usually using.
And the final question from the audience.
Вот вас обвинял копродюсер Павел Донской в том, что вы украли как бы права на фильм и не пустили их на церемонию награждения Оскара. И, ну, то есть ваша версия, они говорят о том, что вы договаривались, что фильм будет использован и продвигаться будет некоммерчески, и в итоге как бы он продвигается коммерчески, и ребята не могут использовать кадры там, в своих целях и на фестивалях и так далее. Ваша версия, то есть не было такого договора о некоммерческом использовании?
У нас сейчас форум о исторических событиях, связанных между мной и двумя людьми, или о том, что люди что-то могут научиться. Я вам могу ответить на этот вопрос и вне форума.
Но это был большой скандал вот, в украинских медиа в том числе.
Смотрите, дело в том, что не было такого договора, это раз. Второе, договор был между мной и почти всей командой кинематографистов, что я донесу это до всего мира, что я сделал. Вы знаете, когда я мальчишкой приехал на Майдан, и начались вот эти вот сборки, никто не верил, и многие даже на меня смотрели, что я говорил, вот, пойдем на Торонто, пойдем на фестивали, да, пойдем на Оскар. На меня люди вот так вот смотрели. Ну, смотрите, приехал незнакомец из Голливуда и обещает за небесные вещи. И тогда никто, может быть, даже и не верил. Не было такого, права есть у меня все, я могу сразу сказать, потому что я подписывал почти каждую бумажку, я живу в правовом поле, меня можно судить. У вас немножко это по-другому, это раз. Он не коммерческий фильм, Netflix его не сделал коммерческим. Netflix вложил почти 7-10 миллионов, я не помню полную сумму, в то, чтобы донести его до Оскара. Вы знаете, когда шла подготовка к Оскару, почти каждый автобус в аэропорту Лос-Анджелеса имел баннер «Зимы в огне». Почти 15 билбордов больших в центре Лос-Анджелеса были «Зима в огне». Были рекламы на телевидении, чего только не было. Он не коммерческий, Netflix не коммерческий, потому что вот всем, кто здесь находится, я скажу, документалка, она не коммерческая. А художественное кино, оно коммерческое. Документалка, она не коммерческая. Документалка, она больше вот такое, знаете, для души. Поэтому не было таких договоров, я вам сразу могу сказать, договора все подписаны, они есть. Я еще раз подчеркиваю, если бы был конфликт реальный, он бы решался в суде, потому что я живу в Америке, меня можно судить. У меня есть реальный легальный адрес, у меня есть имя. Но, как есть русская поговорка, я не хотел в эту тему заходить, но поскольку, опять-таки, это уже второй раз, я нахожусь в Украине, я хочу уже тогда выговориться. Дело в том, что собака лает, ветер носит, караван идет. Если бы меня хотели судить, меня бы судили. Но эти же люди, они знали о Netflix и стояли на сцене вместе со мной, когда Петро Порошенко вручал мне орден. И они также в тот же день давали пресс-конференцию. И все знали, что он идет на Netflix. Netflix заключил со мной контракт еще в декабре. Контракт и разговоры были с сентября 2014 года, и контракт был заключен в декабре 2014 года. И это все было известно всей моей команде. И поэтому там не было никаких сюрпризов, там никто ни у кого не воровал. Просто, опять-таки говорю, есть персональные вещи. И я все равно снимаю шапку перед Юрой и Пашей, потому что они в АТО, они были в АТО. И есть эмоции, которые иногда неконтролируемые, потому что война есть война. поймите, они прошли войну. И я перед ними снимаю шапку, потому что они защищали, когда мы все вот здесь, они защищали страну Украину вот там, в АТО. Поэтому есть неконтролируемые эмоции иногда, и есть, как говорится, ну, какие-то обиды на персональном уровне. То, что это случилось вот так вот сейчас, ну, что я могу сделать? Скандалы бывают и в больших продукциях, скандалы бывают и в маленьких продукциях. Но в данной ситуации легальность вся соблюдена. Фильм увидел 190 стран. Если сейчас пойти на Twitter и написать хэштаг Winter on Fire, вы посмотрите очень много рецензий от людей, простых, смертных людей со всего мира, чему они научились от этого фильма. И я думаю, что свое слово и перед своими ребятами, которые работали здесь, а здесь работала большая команда. В Украине работала больше, чем, ну вот галочка вот там вот сидит. Она, посмотрите, человек, который создавал Спільна Бачина и SPN Productions, она была на Оскаре, кстати, и она завтра будет на панели вместе со мной рассказывать о создании и о копродукциях, и о том, как можно донести, чтобы каждая продукция в мире, в украинском мире, могла дойти до всего мира. Поэтому, в принципе, все было соблюдено. Я вот честно, положа руку на сердце, говорю. И я перед Богом, перед всеми, я сделал максимум, чтобы донести этот фильм. Я сейчас прилетел из Брюсселя, где мы перед Европарламентом показывали фильм, и где вынули эмоции, про которые только что говорили. Потому что важно, чтобы люди со всего мира понимали, что то, что произошло в Украине, оно не произошло нигде. И его даже повторить нельзя. Та уникальность событий, ребята, которая произошла у вас и донесли благодаря 3 большим командам, самая большая в Украине, и команда, которая была в Америке, и команда в Великобритании, то, что смогли донести с помощью профессионалов, оно уникально, потому что единение всех возрастов, единение всех социальных слоев, единение религии и людей, оно не существовало ни в одной революции. Я проштудировал очень много революций, я знаю хорошо другие революции, я сейчас смотрю на сирийские все эти события, и поэтому эту уникальность донесли до всего мира. Люди, вот я вам скажу, я выходя из залов очень часто, я слышу: вау, украинцы настолько inspired me, I want to be with them. То есть фильм работает, то обязательство, которое я перед людьми, я взял на себя, я сделал. Никаких нарушений не было, поверьте.
Євгеній Афінеєвський, оплески. Ми зібралися на медіафорум, котрий має гаслом «Пояснюючи світ через медіа». І ми щоразу чуємо нові і нові, і ставимо собі нові і нові запитання. Якщо Євгеній каже, що от я, мовляв, простудіював усі революції і не бачив в жодній такого єднання різних верств і так далі, тоді наступне запитання цілком законне. Так може це і не революція зовсім, якщо вона настільки відрізняється від усіх інших. А що це? І далі запитання. Ну що ж, моя модерація на цьому форумі добігає кінця, але мені здається, що слайду нарешті має для нас запитання із множинним вибором, так? Чудово. Увага на екран. Отже, пояснюючи світ через медіа, запитання таке. Медіа пояснюють світ. Перший варіант – зрозуміло, другий варіант – плутано, і третій – аудиторії байдуже. Ви можете зараз висловити своє ставлення до того, як, на вашу думку, медіа, а отже і ми з вами, пояснюємо цей світ. Прошу. Не виходить? Прошу. Та, нехай голосують, звичайно. Голосуйте. О! Ага. І, як бачимо, просто негайно ж. Так, змінюється. До речі, Євгеній, how would you say, how does media explain the world? What's your take on this? How do media explain the world? In a clear way, in a tangled way?
I will tell you something that I learned. The problem that media, a lot of times, taking a specific subject matter of the news and shows this to the world. Sometimes it's misleading because, again, what is the difference between documentary and a small interview that media doing? The problem that when you're doing a compelling movie, you're telling the complete story between beginning, middle, and end. So you disclosing something that is bringing to the subject matter or to the event, then telling the story and showing the ending. When you're doing a small interview of some matter or showing some news, sometimes people in the world who are not familiar with this geographic place or with the event, people don't know what's happened prior, what elements happened prior, who is the reason, why, what is the reason of the event, and then it's a lot of times misleads. So documentary in that point, documentary can tell the complete story, and this is the difference. So yes, media can mislead you, and media not delivering the full thing, that documentary can fill the gap technically.
Добре, дуже дякую, дуже дякую.